The charity hall was glowing that evening, bathed in warm golden light that reflected off crystal chandeliers and polished marble floors. Everything about the place spoke of wealth, success, and perfection, yet none of it touched the heart of Ethan Cole. He stood slightly apart from the crowd, a tall figure in a tailored black suit. His posture straight, but his eyes distant, as if he were present only in body, not in spirit. For the people around him, Ethan Cole was a legend. A self-made CEO, one of the youngest business leaders to ever dominate the tech and finance world, powerful, brilliant, untouchable. Women admired him. Investors respected him, and the media followed his every move, but none of them knew the truth. Ethan Cole was painfully, unbearably lonely. He lifted a glass of untouched champagne, listening to conversations blur into meaningless noise. Laughter echoed around him, but it sounded hollow. Every smile he saw felt foreign, almost unreal. 5 years had passed, yet the ache in his chest felt as sharp as the first night he came home to an empty house. Lily. Her name alone tightened his throat. She had loved nights like these, not the luxury, but the music. She would have sat near the piano, eyes closed, swaying softly to every note, completely lost in the melody. Ethan used to watch her like that, convinced the world made more sense simply because she existed in it. But Lily was gone, and with her, the music in his life had died too. Mr. Cole, thank you so much for attending, a woman from the charity board said, interrupting his thoughts. Your support means everything. He forced a polite smile. Of course. The words felt automatic, empty. He had donated more money than most people would earn in a lifetime. Yet no amount could fill the hollow space inside him. As the host took the stage to announce the evening's performances, Ethan considered leaving. He had fulfilled his obligation. No one would question his early exit. He turned slightly toward the doors, already imagining the quiet solitude of his car. Ladies and gentlemen, the host said warmly, before dinner we have a few special performances tonight. And our next one, well, she's very special. Ethan paused. A small figure appeared from the side of the stage. A little girl. She couldn't have been more than 6 or 7 years old. Her dress was pale blue, simple and slightly faded, clearly not tailored or expensive like everything else in the room. Her hair was neatly braided, though a few loose strands framed her face. She walked slowly, clutching the edge of the stage for balance. Her eyes wide as she looked out at the sea of unfamiliar faces. A ripple of soft murmurs passed through the audience. Ethan frowned slightly, curiosity tugging at him despite himself. Children didn't usually perform at events like this, especially not alone. The girl climbed onto the piano bench, her small body almost swallowed by the grand piano. Her feet dangled above the pedals, swinging nervously. She placed her hands in her lap and looked at the microphone. Hesitating, the host leaned down and whispered something encouraging. The girl nodded, took a deep breath, and leaned forward. Her voice was soft, almost fragile. Hello, she said. The hall grew quiet. My name is Emma. She swallowed, her fingers twisting together. Sir? I learned this song from my mommy. Ethan felt something strange stir inside his chest. The girl looked down at the piano keys, then back up, as if searching the crowd for someone. She said, music is how we remember people we love. A few people smiled gently. Some wiped at their eyes. It was sweet, innocent, but for Ethan, the room suddenly felt smaller. The air grew heavy, pressing against his lungs. That sentence, that exact sentence, Lily used to say. The same thing. Ethan's grip tightened around his glass. His heartbeat quickened, an old, familiar ache spreading through him. He told himself it was coincidence. Of course it was. Lots of people said things like that. Still, he didn't move. Emma turned back to the piano. She lifted her hands slowly, carefully, like she was afraid the keys might disappear if she touched them too fast. The first note echoed through the hall. Ethan's breath caught. The melody was simple, at first soft, hesitant, like a whisper. The kind of tune played at night when the world was quiet and feelings were too heavy for words. As the notes flowed together, something deep inside him began to unravel. No, it couldn't be. His mind raced as the music continued, growing stronger, more confident. Each note struck a memory, vivid and painful, rain tapping against windows. Dim lights in a small apartment, Lily sitting at an old upright piano, barefoot, smiling at him over her shoulder. She had written that song. Not for an audience. Not for fame, for him. Ethan felt the blood drain from his face. The glass slipped from his fingers and shattered on the marble floor, but he didn't hear it. His entire world narrowed to the sound of that piano. That's impossible, he whispered. No one else noticed. All eyes were on the stage. Emma's expression was serious now, her small brow furrowed in concentration. She played with a quiet determination, as if every note mattered deeply, as if the song itself carried a message she had promised to deliver. Tears blurred Ethan's vision. How could a child know that melody? His hands trembled. His legs felt weak, as if they might give out at any second. He leaned against a nearby pillar, his chest tightening with every passing second. 5 years ago, Lily had been pregnant. 5 years ago, she had begged him not to leave for that final business trip, and 5 years ago, he had walked out the door. Anyway, the accident came 2 days later. The doctors told him she didn't survive. They told him there was no baby. He had believed them, because believing anything else would have destroyed him. The music slowed, reaching its final aching notes. Silence fell over the hall. Then applause erupted loud. Emotional, overwhelming. Emma flinched slightly at the sound, then smiled shyly and bowed her head. She slid off the bench and stood there, small and unsure. As the audience continued clapping, Ethan couldn't clap. He couldn't breathe, without fully realizing it. He started moving. One step, then another. The crowd parted instinctively as he walked toward the stage, his face pale, eyes fixed on the little girl. Emma noticed him approaching. Her smile faded into a look of curiosity. She tilted her head, studying him with wide eyes so familiar it hurt. He stopped just in front of the stage. Close. She was even smaller than he'd thought. Fragile, real. His voice came out rough, barely steady. What is your mommy's name? Emma didn't hesitate. Lily, she said softly. The name hit him like a blow. His knees buckled, and he dropped to one knee without caring who saw. Gasps rippled through the audience, but he heard none of it. Where is your mommy now? He asked, his voice breaking. Emma's gaze lowered. Her small hands clasped together. She's in heaven, she whispered. But she told me not to be scared. She said, one day when I played this song, my daddy would hear it. Ethan stared at her, the world spinning around him. Emma, he said slowly, who told you that song? She looked at him again, her eyes bright with something that felt dangerously close to hope. My mommy, she replied. She said my daddy loved music, and that he had kind eyes. Tears streamed freely down Ethan's face now. He reached out, hesitating for just a second before gently taking her small hand in his. I'm here, he whispered, his voice breaking completely. I'm here now. Emma squeezed his hand back as if she'd been waiting for that moment her whole life, and for the first time in 5 long years, Ethan Cole felt the silence inside him begin to break. Ethan didn't remember standing up, only the sensation of the room slowly coming back into focus as murmurs spread around him. Dozens of eyes were fixed on him, confused, curious, whispering, but for the first time in years, he didn't care what anyone thought. All he could see was Emma. Her small hand was still in his, warm and real, grounding him in a way nothing ever had before. She looked up at him with a mixture of uncertainty and quiet trust, as if she somehow already knew he wasn't a stranger. I think, Ethan said hoarsely, forcing himself to stand. We should talk somewhere quieter. The host rushed forward, clearly flustered. Mr. Cole, is everything? It can wait, Ethan said gently but firmly. He helped Emma down from the stage. She didn't pull away. Instead, she stepped closer to him, her fingers tightening around his hand as the noise of the hall swelled behind them. A woman appeared from the side of the room, her face pale with worry. She was young, perhaps in her late 20s, wearing a simple dress and worn shoes. When she saw Emma, relief flooded her features. Emma! She hurried forward. Oh my goodness, you scared me. I was just getting you some water. Emma turned. Aunt Sarah, it's okay. Aunt, Ethan's heart clenched. Sarah looked at Ethan, clearly recognizing him now. Her eyes widened slightly, and for a moment, something like fear crossed her face. "You're Ethan Cole," she said quietly. "Yes," he replied. "And you are?" "Sarah," she said after a pause. "Lily was my sister." The world tilted. Ethan stared at her, searching her face for anger, blame, accusation, anything. But what he saw instead was exhaustion. "Years of it." "Please," Sarah added softly, glancing at the staring crowd. "Can we go somewhere private?" They were led to a quiet lounge away from the main hall. The door closed behind them, muting the distant sounds of the event. The silence inside felt heavy, fragile, like something that could shatter with the wrong word. Emma climbed onto a sofa, her legs tucked beneath her. She watched the two adults carefully, sensing the importance of the moment even if she didn't fully understand it. Ethan sat opposite her, his hands clenched together. "I was told Lily died alone," he said slowly. "I was told there was no child." Sarah's jaw tightened. She took a deep breath, as if bracing herself. "She didn't die alone," she said. "And there was a child." Ethan closed his eyes. "She survived the accident," Sarah continued. "Barely. She was in a coma for weeks. When she woke up, the first thing she asked for was you?" Ethan's throat burned. "Why didn't anyone call me?" "Because she begged us not to," Sarah replied. "She said you had chosen your work over her. She didn't want to be another burden in your life." "That's not true," he whispered. "She believed it was," Sarah said quietly. "And by the time you came back and asked questions, she was already gone." Emma shifted on the sofa. "Mommy said Daddy didn't know," she said softly, as if trying to fix something broken. Sarah smiled sadly at her. "That's right, sweetheart." Ethan looked at Emma again, really looked at her. The curve of her nose, the shape of her eyes, the way she tilted her head when she was thinking. Lily was everywhere in her. "How did you learn the song?" he asked, his voice gentler now. Emma's face brightened just a little. "Mommy used to play it every night," she said. "Even when she was very tired. She said it was a promise." "A promise to me?" Ethan asked. Emma nodded. "She said when I played it you would remember." Sarah wiped at her eyes. "Lily wrote that song for you, Ethan. She played it through the pain, through the sickness. She said it was the only way she could keep you close." Ethan bent forward, his elbows on his knees, his face in his hands. A sound escaped his chest, half sob, half breath he'd been holding for years. "I should have been there," he said. "I should have fought harder." "You're here now," Sarah said gently. "That has to count for something." Emma slid off the sofa and walked toward him. She stood in front of him, small and brave. "Are you really my daddy?" she asked. Ethan looked up at her, tears streaking his face. "If you'll let me be," he said. She studied him for a long moment. Then she reached up and wrapped her arms around his neck, hugging him with surprising strength. "I waited a long time," she whispered. Ethan held her as if she might disappear, his arms trembling. "I'm not going anywhere," he promised. The days that followed felt unreal. Lawyers, documents, late night, conversations filled with pain and honesty. Ethan learned everything: how Sarah had raised Emma on a modest income, how Lily had left letters, recordings, and journals meant for a future Ethan might never see. One evening, Sarah handed him a small, worn notebook. "She wanted you to have this," she said. Inside were Lily's words. Pages filled with love, fear, hope. On the last page, written shakily, was a message. "If you're reading this, it means Emma found you through the music. Please don't be angry with me. I only wanted her to grow up knowing love, not resentment. Take care of her. And yourself." Ethan closed the notebook, pressing it to his chest. Emma moved into his home slowly, cautiously. The massive house felt different with her in it, lighter, warmer. Laughter returned to rooms that had known only silence. One night, Ethan found her sitting at the piano in the living room, her feet still not quite reaching the pedals. "Will you play with me?" she asked. He sat beside her. His fingers hovered over the keys, unsure. "I haven't played in years," he admitted. "That's okay," she said. "Mommy said music remembers for us when we forget." They played together, imperfect and soft, the melody filling the space between them and for the first time since Lily's voice faded from his life, Ethan realized something profound. Love hadn't left him. It had simply been waiting in a small pair of hands, a familiar song and a second chance he never thought he deserved.